final score: Port Vale 1, Wrexham 1. Port Vale winning 3-1 on penalties in what is that close to being a completely meaningless game of football. Let's be honest. But it was quite fun anyway. And I reckon the most meaningless game I've ever commentated on was the last day of the 2016-17 season at Eastleigh, the battle for 13th place, which Andy Parkinson and I commentated on, and that was one of our favourite ever commentaries, to be honest, and sometimes these games can be unsurprisingly pleasing. This one, well, Wrexham, we made 11 changes. It turned into 10 by the time the teams came out, because we had a bit of an unlucky time with injuries to add to Arthur Okonkwo's misfortune this week. Will Boyle was supposed to be captain, and he pulled his calf in the warm-up, apparently in the last run of the warm-up, and so Max Cleworth had to step up to play, and then 12 minutes in we lose Luke Bolton, who's sprinting after the ball, pulls his calf. So yeah, in that regard it was a very, very concerning run out, like I said, with very low stakes. But hey, that's life, I guess. You can't decide your own luck in things like this, can you? Anyway, the reason it was pointless was that both sides were already through to the next round. The only real significance was that if you finished top of the group, which we needed a draw to achieve, then you would be guaranteed a home tie in the next round. And we did get that draw, of course. The penalty shootout meant that we end up level on points, but we got better goal difference. So there we are. We've earned ourselves a home draw, which is the only thing you could get out of this match, really. Like I say, totally rotated team. Debut for Matty James in midfield. Debut for Josh Adam in midfield as well. And pitch time for both James and Johan Daddy Botherzon up front. Also, young players like Aaron James getting a run out. Harry Ashfield coming on at the end. Mo Farr getting a chance. Yeah, total rotation. And the first half was low-key, I would say. We looked the better side, certainly for the first half hour. We had the first opportunity. Anthony Ford, good to see him on the pitch, swinging in a corner. Mo Farr had to stretch above his man to try and get a header in. Got it on target from 6 yards out, but because he was stretching so much, he couldn't get enough direction and power on it, and it bounced straight to the keeper. The substitution then, of course, of Bolton had to happen. Seb Evan coming on, and he would make a big impact on the game, to be fair, as one of our most effective attacking players. We went close a couple of minutes after that substitution. A really good tackle in midfield by Bodvarsson. He feed the ball over to the right. Aaron James fed it in down the right, back into the box. Bodvarsson had made a run ahead of him after winning it, and he pulled it back nicely. Foul, hit it from 6 yards, but a defender had got tight with him, got a touch on it, and it deflected just wide. The next chance was also Wrexham's around the 20th minute when the ball drops in the box. Josh Adam can't quite get his shot off. He's looking for an opening, looking for opportunity. In the end, it falls to Bodvarsson, who turns really well and hits a good shot from 15 yards. Keep it well to get down and hold on to it. But the game was sort of drifting along. First opportunity that Port Vale had was a couple of minutes before the break, really. Benicio, who looked a very attacking right wing back, lovely skill. He's surrounded by Wrexham players pressing him, and he just surges through them and opens us up, plays it into the box. Cleworth makes a good interception, but the ball comes back to Patton, who is about to show off his excellence at striking the ball. Lovely striker of the ball, him. He makes a brilliant contact on it from about 25 yards out, but he puts it just wide of the post. He would have, as I said, a couple more efforts. He had a free kick from about 25 yards, which he put wide. Not that far wide, because he really hits it. When he hits it, it stays hit. He had one that was blocked well by Brunt in the second half. And bearing in mind the Okonkwo news, you know, as Callum Burton will now be getting a run in the team, one that I thought was particularly relevant, he hit a real strike right down the middle, right down the barrel. And you wouldn't expect Burton to let it in, but the fact that he held it pleased me. You know, it was one of those that most keepers would pat down and then take on the way back up, take the pace off it. But it was really good hands by Burton. I think he's a good technical goalkeeper. We pushed back, had a chance in the last minute of the half. Great cross from the right-hand side by Revan. Vale stretching and jumping with the centre-back Jesse Deborah, the only Port Vale first teamer from last Saturday who was starting on Tuesday. And pretty plainly, it came off Deborah last for a corner. The referee surprisingly gave the goal kick. But yeah, Vale was causing some problems, and Bodvarsson. They were both causing some issues. They were both doing well in the air. And Wrexham, I think would have been pretty satisfied with the first half performance. Half-time saw Mark Howard come on for his 50th Wrexham appearance, which was wonderful to see. Now that we know Burton wasn't injured, it was just a pre-planned idea to give them both an equal run out and some minutes under their belt. I guess that's probably driven by the fact that by then they must have known about Okonkwo, and they're thinking, well, Howard's going to be on the bench for a few league games now, so let's get them both a bit more up to speed. And we started the second half well. Another corner by Ford. Aaron James meets it, flicks it into the danger area where a defender just beat Cleworth to it and poked it behind for a corner. But it was a temporary reprieve because that next corner would lead to us taking the lead. Ford sweeping another good delivery in. He's, like I said, hits his man on a couple of occasions. Bodvarsson with a great little flick header across, and Cleworth charging in, meets it about a yard out at the far post in front of an open goal and smashes it gleefully into the roof of the net to give Wrexham the lead. I've got to say, his celebration was great. Bodvarsson's celebration was great. I tell you, he came running. Cleworth ran one side the goal. Bodvarsson's run towards the near post, he continued it and was really going nuts running towards the press box. And I just thought, God, lad, he's got the Wrexham bug, isn't he? He was delighted with his part in that goal. Now then, Port Vale struck back almost immediately. Again, it's Benicio causing issues, feeding the ball in. Patton with that powerful hit I mentioned earlier after carrying it across, really well blocked by Brunt. The ball comes out to Benicio and he rips it. Left-footed, right-sided, right wing-back, rips it with his left foot from about 25 yards out inside the far corner. Good save by Mark Howard, who gets across and pushes the ball around the post for a corner. When the ball is swung in by Sharrock, Deborah, the massive centre-back, gets up about 6 yards out and he times it perfectly, rises way above everyone else, but plants his head too close to Howard, who again shows good hands to just take it first time. There's opportunity at the other end when Matty James feeds the ball in, and it's initially nothing comes of it, but when it's cleared back out, James puts Vale gets up. It does really well here. Strength in the box. Big centre-back next to him, but he gets himself under the ball so that he can use his physique to block the defender, and he heads it cleverly down to Mendy. It's a good chance, probably the best chance Wrexham have apart from the goal. About 10 yards out, he's in space on the left side of the box, but pretty narrow. But he just doesn't quite control it properly to get the swift strike, which I think was the best option, and having not done that, he fiddles around with it a little bit, and then when he gets a shot off, it's still a good chance, but he rather scuffs it, and it's an easy take for the keeper. But Port Vale start coming back very strongly at us around the hour mark, and the rest of the game really is almost completely about them pushing us back. Again, nice little 1-2 of Patton involved, and he feeds it into the box for Hackford. Hackford running in one-on-one with Howard. Howard does brilliantly to save at his feet, although the ball ricochets beyond him and was still going to go in despite Howard's efforts, but Cleworth is able to get back and clear it off the line. Then it's Benicio again finding Hackford. Hackford knocking a nice pass through the middle. Port Vale really doing well, like passing through the thirds. When he got the ball into that area about 30-40 yards out, they had lots of good movement, runners running into channels, and we were struggling to pick them up, and they passed the ball around nicely. We allowed a bit too much room, I would say, on the edge of the box, which we normally don't do with our first team setup, where it's all very compact. Port Vale were able to play through us, and on this occasion, that Patton pass sends the ball in. Hackford pass sends Patton into the box with a clear sight of goal. Looks like he's bound to score. Brunt lunges in from behind on the side, and from my perspective at the time, completely wipes Patton out, stone cold penalty. Having seen the replays, I think the ref may have got it right because he doesn't give the penalty. Looking, it's hard to tell, and there's only one camera angle, but to me, I think Brunt does slide in and get a touch on the ball. Now, you could argue that he then carries on through the player. I think that's a reasonable argument. But I can see why the ref maybe didn't give the penalty. The first contact is, I think, by Brunt, so fair play to him for that. Port Vale aren't put off, their crowd aroused, such as it is a crowd, and they start to get behind them more. Hackford working it wide to Tulai, who feeds it back to Hackford, but again, a bit of a scuff, and Howard is able to hold on to it. And Hackford has another chance from a tight angle, and Howard makes a sharp save down at his near post to push it round for a corner. By this point, Paul Mullen has come on for Bodvarsson, who's always going to get about an hour or so. In the last 10 minutes, we bring on Rathbone for Josh Adam. We bring on Harry Ashworth for Mo Farl, and Ashfield goes up front. But we don't hang on to the lead. 82nd minute, a throw-in, long throw. Deborah hurls it in. Brunt will be frustrated at himself because he just mistimes his jump and misses the ball. There's no one around him. And it bounces through, and then Rico Richards substitutes, scores a superb goal, to be fair. It bounces to him about 15 yards out. He's got a hugely crowded penalty area in front of him. Aaron James is marking him and is looking to get in his face. But Richards, lovely little touch just to shift the ball to the left and step back, and then he gets around it and drills a shot across Howard, who has no chance. And they draw. And of course, in this rather bizarre tournament, a draw in a group game means penalties for an extra point. And here is where it gets strange. Penalties taken at the empty end of the stadium. Only two of the stands were open. The other end of the stadium was the away end. Darren Moore, the Port Vale manager, claimed afterwards that the referee said it has to be down that end. No idea what basis that's on. I thought the rules say you got to have a toss for ends, and surely you do. But anyway, that's what he claims. I don't know. And yeah, it doesn't go right for us, does it? Beautifully put by the BBC Stoke bloke behind me. I overheard him saying it's an absolutely pointless penalty shootout in front of an empty stand. Yeah, that's about it, really. Tolaj steps up for the first one. Good penalty, just inside the right post. Mullin equalises. Good to see Mullin drill a penalty home. Sent the keeper the wrong way. But Lowe scores his to make it 2-1, and then things start to go wrong. Ford doesn't get a proper contact, hits it much too central, and Ben Amos saves it low down to his right. Grant steps up and makes it 3-1 with another good penalty just inside the right post. Seb Revan, I feel a little sorry for him. He puts it in the corner. Decent pace, but maybe not quite enough, and Amos makes a good save low down to his left. And at 3-1 after 3 penalties, we are looking in a lot of trouble. In fact, let's be honest, we've already reached that awful stage in a shootout where everything's got to go your way. We're going to have to save both their penalties and score both ours. And it starts well enough, because Howard indeed does save the first penalty, dropping low to his right. Good save by him. Ollie Rathbone, though, steps up to try and keep us into the last round of penalties, but he scuffs it a bit, and it's a low down save for Amos to his left, which isn't the most difficult penalty save. And we have lost the game. We have drawn the game. We have lost the shootout. It means nothing because, like I said, that 1 point has earned us the home game anyway. So the penalty shootout made absolutely zero difference whatsoever. Looking at the individual performances now, Burton in the first half didn't have anything to do, really, in all honesty. Nothing that extended him. Howard in the second half had a lot to do and did brilliantly. He made 3 good saves. He did well on the penalties. I've always felt, and, if I'm not being fair, fair enough, I'll hold my hands up. But I always sort of felt that Howard wasn't that didn't get that close to penalties when we've had penalties. And I mean, let's be frank, this is not a determining quality in picking a goalkeeper or judging a goalkeeper, because you don't have to do it very often and the odds are against you anyway. But I always had this sort of sense that maybe he's not that fantastic on penalties. He was very good in this. He went the right way every single time. Those penalties had to be well struck. They all were, and had to be well placed. They all were, because Howard was close to all of them. So nice to see that as well. Good work by Howard in goal. Across the back, well, Aaron James, the right-sided centre-back, I thought did really well. Defensively, he was strong. Like I said, Rico Richards beat him for the goal, but it was a great goal. It was a really great piece of play. There's no shame in that. He did well defensively. He was really forward-looking and driving down the right, and he was constantly playing these second ball hole balls over the top, which were decent and stretched Port Vale. I thought he had a really, really good game. I said in commentary, if this Aaron James, as he is now, was available to us about 3 years ago, he'd have probably been a regular for us in the back. Very impressed with him, very impressed. Brunt on the left-hand side, again, I think he's really got something. Brunt, he's got lots of really good qualities, lots of physical work at the back, dealing with the big strikers, using the ball well, and he's got enough pace to cover as well. He had a little couple of hairy moments, like with the goal, though, which he probably needs to sort of iron out a bit. But let's be honest, it's because he's not playing week in, week out. That's the reason why. And then Cleworth, my man of the match, I would say, in the middle of the three, the skipper for the night, having not originally been intended to play. He was, I mean, it's not easy to suddenly get that call like that. Well, clearly he was ready from the start. He defended very, very well, notwithstanding the fact that he scored, but I thought he did a very good job. Paul Bolton, I feel so sorry for. 12 minutes and he's off. He made 2 or 3 sprints over the top down that right-hand side into promising positions. It looked like he was going to be an influential player, and it wasn't to be, was it? Mendy was tidy in the first half. In the second half, he got forwards a bit more and was a bit more menacing. There were times when he needed to hurry up, I think. And some of his teammates were telling him that he'd get the ball, he'd dwell on it a bit too long, not just for that chance, but also for some passing opportunities. Matty James in the centre. I mean, Matty James could be a huge signing for us. A stroke of genius by Phil Parks if we can get him up and running properly. And he certainly looked very solid here. And there's a little comical moment near the end when we'd used all our subs and he clearly had really bad cramp. And he sort of hopped his way through the last 5 minutes, but he kept going and he kept being involved. And yeah, he's a really good, I think, midfield controller in the Dobson mould, holding midfield and moving the ball around. Good quality player. Josh Adam was interesting as well, our other debutant. He was lively, lots of nice little touches. Sometimes I think, again, he's young and the experienced players were pointing out, right, okay, that was the wrong decision, try and do this. Because sometimes he would do something in a decent position, but it wouldn't actually lead anywhere, really. But he's a young lad, that's fair enough. He clearly had quality on the ball, he carried the ball nicely, and he passed the ball nicely, and so he's also an intriguing option. And Anthony Ford, I thought he did really well, especially first halves in support of Revan. They really interchanged nicely. Brought back memories of Anthony Ford and James Jones just bossing the right-hand side in the National League. Their excellent combination play. It was really good to see. The 2 strikers, I thought Mo Farrell was fun. He caused issues, didn't he? He looked a bit awkward. Andy Morrell in the commentary compared him to Paolo Wanchop, and it was a great comparison. He looked clumsy, he looked awkward, but was effective. He was really... a number of times he'd get himself into a bit of bother, but then his fast feet would get him out again. And he did well in the air as well. Had a couple of decent chances in the first half, which he couldn't quite take advantage of. But yeah, he looked lively. And Bodvarsson, again, I think he looks a very wise player to bring in. 66 minutes he played. He was thrilled to have got that much time and really happy with how things are going. And you can see those qualities that have made him a player at a higher level than this. He's good in the air. He's quick, runs the channels nicely. He's got good skill, brings the ball into control swiftly. So with Marriott and Fletcher out, I would expect Bodvarsson to be playing a greater and greater role as the season goes on towards Christmas. As for the substitutes who came on, well, I've talked about Howard already. Revan did really well. He was very energetic, and in our second half particularly, I would say, was our most threatening player. Maybe wasn't quite getting the crosses quite right, but he is playing on the wrong side, isn't he? He's a left back, really. But he was always looking to take people on. He was looking to link up play nicely, and he was our best outlet, I would say, certainly in the second half. I liked Harry Ashfield again. He's not the biggest lad, but he's robust. He's like a rubber ball. The big Port Vale defenders and midfielders trying to rough him up, and he was keeping his balance well, and he uses the ball intelligently, so that was great to see. Mullin didn't get that much of a chance to really get involved in the game as such, but he took that penalty very, very confidently. And Ollie Rathbone came in and didn't have a good shift off the bench. Pity for him about the penalty, but that's it was gone anyway, and frankly, who cares? It was we got our home tie. That's all that matters out of it. With the final score of Port Vale 1, Wrexham 1, Port Vale winning 3-1 on penalties. I'm Mark Griffiths from Wrexham AFC.